Hello, welcome to this exciting video. This topic falls under coordination. So we're going to look at what we call a reflex arc. Okay, so a reflex arc, here we say it's simply a path traveled by a nerve impulse during a reflex action. So what is a reflex action? So a reflex action, okay, if we would define what a reflex action is, maybe here, a reflex action. A reflex action, we can define it as an action that is automatic. An action that is automatic an action that is can say an automatic response to what? Stimuli. Okay, an action that is an automatic response to what? To stimuli. So this action is automatic. Okay, it is a very, very automatic action, meaning you just respond. So where the body responds when it comes in contact with a stimuli. Okay, a stimuli. So we're going to look at types of reflexes before we look at the reflex arc. So we'll look at types of reflexes. Here we can just say types of reflexes or examples. Types of reflex actions. So again, this is very high yield information. Questions will come up here. Okay, so most of them, these reflex actions, they occur very quickly, okay, within seconds. So for example, we can give an example. Let's say we talk of this example just for this particular point. Withdrawing of a hand, withdrawing of a hand from a hot object. Okay, so let's say there is a very, very, very hot object nearby. Okay, for the sake of illustration, so there's a very, very hot object nearby. Okay, let's say this is hot. Okay, and then you have just a hand there. Okay, this is somebody's hand. Okay, like that. All right, so when the person touches this hot object, this is a hot plate. Okay, so what happens, you find that they withdraw their hand immediately. Okay, so it is very quick response. You withdraw your hand very quickly. Okay, so it's a very quick response here. So you pull your hand like this. Okay, so now what is happening here is there are things that are happening. So we're going to talk about them. There's what we call the stimuli. In this case, the stimuli here is the what? The pain that you're going to experience. Okay, once you touch something hot, it will burn you, the pain. Now this stimuli now then is, there is what we call a receptor organ here. Okay, there is what we call a receptor, and the receptor organ is just something that is able to detect pain. Okay, so here you're going to have a receptor organ And in this case, the receptor organ that is in contact with the hot plate is your hand, okay? But we'll say the skin, eh? The skin is what comes in contact, okay? The skin. So from the receptor organ here, this receptor organ, it has the ability now to convert this pain into an impulse, okay? And once it is in an impulse, it is picked up by a nerve now, which we call the sensory nerve. It's called the sensory nerve. Okay, so this is what will happen. This is stage number one. This is what will happen. Now, this sensory nerve now, it has converted the pain into a what? An impulse. Okay, so now this is a pain impulse. So what happens is there are a lot of nerve endings here. There are a lot of nerves, and these nerves are connected like that. Okay, so here you have hot, the skin, then the nerve, okay, which is the sensory nerve. It senses, right? Sensory nerve, okay, it senses, okay. Then from the sensory nerve now, what happens is that this information now will go to something which we call the CNS, okay, which is central nervous system. Now, the central nervous system, what does it do now? Its job is to interpret the impulse. It's to interpret the impulse, this impulse that it receives. Okay, the central nervous system has that job of actually interpreting the impulse. Okay, so here the central nervous system are made up of two things. You have the brain, and also the spinal cord. Brain as well as the spinal cord. Okay, so this is, we can give them numbers that will follow them nicely. We have okay, so we have, this is number 1, we have number 2, number 3, then number 4. Okay, number 4 there. So now after the brain now interprets the impulse, it will send it back. Okay, it will send it back now using what we call the so apart from the sensory neuron, you have now the other neuron, which we call the motor neuron. Motor neuron will take it where? To the effector organ. And at this point, you find that the reflex action is stopped. Okay, so this is, you have the motor neuron. It's just a nerve as well. Okay, this is a nerve. Effector organ, this will be the muscles. Now, which muscles? Okay, the muscles, if it was a hand, we're looking at the muscle which happens to be here. Okay, and the muscles that are here. Okay, so once it goes, it will come back, and then it like this. Okay, and then here you are going to withdraw your hand immediately. Okay, so now all this will happen in very few seconds. So this is 5, this is 6. So now this path now, stimuli, receptor, sensory, central nervous system, motor neuron, effector organ, this is what we call as this the reflex arc. Okay, it has to undergo all these steps here. Okay, and that's how a person withdraws their hand. Okay, so the brain will interpret that there's pain here, an impulse is sent to the brain, and then it comes back and then the information reaches the muscles and they flex your arm like this, running away from pain. So it's actually a good thing because you avoid getting bent. Okay, so let's look at this diagram here that we want to look at. So here you have this diagram which shows a reflex arc. So when you look at here, this is what happens. We can say this is a stimuli, and here we are using pen. Okay, and this is, let's say, the skin. Okay, the skin there will act, it's acting as our receptor. It can convert this pain into an impulse, right? Okay, so receptor simply converts pain to what? An impulse. Okay, then what happens now after this? You have this nerve. Okay, this nerve that has a cell body here. Okay, so this nerve is called the sensory nerve. We're just following the same path. Sensory nerve, and it has its cell body there. Okay, this is a sensory nerve. So pain here, let's say you had something hot, okay, pain, or something that cuts your finger, maybe a knife. Pain there, the skin is a receptor, it converts the pain to a nerve. So now this impulse now has to go this direction. Okay, that's the direction how the impulse is coming in. Okay, so it comes like that, okay, into the spinal cord. Then now what happens here is that this information here, it is then integrated here. There is another neuron here. Okay, this neuron here, it is simply called the relay. Okay, it is called the relay neuron. I can name it from here. It is called the relay neuron. Okay, so this is where the information now becomes integrated. Okay, this one, it is found in the CNS. Okay, spinal cord or what? Or the brain. Okay, spinal cord or the brain. So it has a cell body here as well. Okay, and the information comes out like that. This we call it the motor neuron. Then these are the muscles, the effector organs. Okay, and this is the path that it's going to do what? To take. Okay, so now this is white matter. There is white matter, and this is the gray matter. Okay, then this part here, it's called the ganglion, where the sensory neuron put its what cell body. It's called the gang. It's called the ganglion. Okay, so here, this is just, these are now, this is the spinal cord. Right, so this is what is basically happening here, and you're expected to know, at least to label. You can always tell the sensory neuron where the ganglion is. Sometimes I can maybe flip it back and put it here, but you should know where the ganglion is. That is where the sensory neuron is. So there are many examples you can give, for example, a knee jerk or anything, but just to keep it simple and short, this is what is happening, and that is the reflex. It's called the reflex arc. Just a path that shows you how the nerve impulse travels. Okay. during a reflex action.